Carry that water, chop that wood. If you want change, you gotta do what you order. Chop that wood, carry that water. If you want change, you gotta do what you order. Chop that wood and carry that water, you know. Well, everything we do is part of this earth. Step by step, I'm gonna add some worth. We could feel afraid, but you can't deny it. We feel at ease when we help each other try it. If you want change, you gotta do what you order. Chop that wood, carry that water. If you want change, you gotta do what you order. Chop that wood and carry that water. Well, 'cause we're all together. Because we're all together. Yes, we are. Sing, we're all together. Well, yes, we're all together. No matter where you're coming from, sing, we're all together. Well, we should get together and sing these songs, but it's gonna take more to right these wrongs. Gonna know my history, gonna do someone a favor, treat myself better and trust my neighbor. If you want change, you gotta do what you order. Chop that wood, carry that water. If you want change, you gotta do what you order. Chop that wood, carry that water. Yeah, because we're all together on a Sunday morning. Sing, we're all together. It's a true story now. Sing, we're all together. Sing, we're all together. Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome to Hilltop. Thank you.
Good morning.
That's good. That's good.
That's working. Yeah. Good morning, everybody, and good morning to out there in the virtual world. Hello, New York. Hello, Oregon. Hello, Northern California. It's nice to see. I can't see you, but it's. I suppose it's nice to be seen, but it's nice to see you guys. It is. How is everybody here this morning? Lovely. Good. Yeah, good. So, welcome. It's the first Sunday of May. Yeah. So it's nice to see you guys. It's good to be here. It feels like the heater's running, which is nice, somebody said, which is nice. Good enough. So let's see what things are coming down the line for us to know. One thing for sure, in about 2 weeks, we're having a brunch concert after service. Lee and his band, and her name is
Anna Ballou.
Anna Ballou,
Amazing jazz guitar player, singer-songwriter. Yeah,
fabulous.
Together Sunday, May 21st.
Yes,
right after service.
So we'll take a little time, eat a little something, and come back in here, and we'll do a concert. So that's coming down the line. That's very exciting. Also, there's new stuff in the gift store, I hear. And Mother's Day is next Sunday. So for any gentleman there thinking about Mother's Day and what to do, that would be a good place to go. And if you see Sherry and Patty, they'll dial you in. So what else is going on? Anything else, you know? You got anything going on? You got your class happening. Got your class. We got class. All things good. How about you, Craig? How are things?
Things are very good, and very excited and honored to be up here again.
Fabulous. So good.
Oh, yeah, I want to mention that on the 28th is guest musician Sonny.
Oh, yes. Sonny.
With
Oh, yeah.
Reverend Angela.
Oh, yeah, with Reverend Angela, and Sonny will be here on May 28th. Yes.
Always lovely.
Good.
Yeah.
So I think we'll just dive right into it. There's nothing else to say or do except let's do this thing.
Yes.
Let's do this thing. So, Craig, you want to take the bus here?
Yes, sir. So, welcome to Hilltop Spiritual Center, and good morning and happy May. I'm Craig Lozzi, and just honored, delighted, excited, and just a pleasure to be with you. And just loving spring as it's peeking out between clouds. So let's begin with a prayer. If you like, just check in with your body, get yourself as relaxed as you can. Perhaps close your eyes. When we close our eyes, our attention naturally goes within. And what is within but that presence of the divine? So we just acknowledge it, we recognize it, we give thanks for it in all of its glory, as it manifests and expressed through all life, through spring, through birds, through blossoms, through rain and clouds and sun, through each of us, for we are all a part of this divine presence, whatever name we give it, God, Spirit, Universe. It is here now as it is always, everywhere, and it's just inviting us to recognize, embrace, embody, and experience it, and to be blessed and to bless. And so I'm knowing that's what is unfolding right here and now, just the blessing of God. Through this service, through the music, through the words, through the prayers, through the presence of coming in unity, community. For this and all that is revealed, the inspiration that follows and continues, we give thanks. And so it is.
So it is.
And so May begins a new exploration with Reverend Guy's talks, Hidden Wholeness. And so I have a reading on that. But perhaps what we could do first is, again, touch into that inner space through the loving kindness meditation that we've been practicing as a community. And it's very simple. Again, as you bring your attention within, perhaps closing your eyes, think of someone you love, whether that's a person or an animal. And as you feel and recognize that person and what they generate in your heart, just let that feeling of love expand into every aspect of your being, through your body physically, just through this inspiration of the heart and the excitement and the warmth of love as it fills you. And then you say, either silently or quietly to yourself, this: may I be filled with loving kindness. And so say that to yourself however you like. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. And then that one that has brought this feeling of love into your heart, again, if it's a person or just an animal, a pet, you say now to them, to yourself, quietly or silently, may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be happy. And being in this world of human experiences and all its vacillations, there are people you know, perhaps they're even in this room, who need your prayerful ministrations. And so whoever that is, whether they're here or in some other avenue of your life, hold them in your heart. And again, silently or quietly to yourself, perhaps even naming them, say, may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be happy. And finally, again, just in this world of being human, there are those sometimes that we rub up against, or perhaps we judge, or perhaps we view as the other, or even as the enemy. And now that we are so immersed in this feeling, of course, like the divine does, we hold them in that same light of love. Perhaps there's someone specific you know that needs or that perhaps you need to forgive, to release yourself from judgment. And you can silently or just quietly to yourself, naming them, say, may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be happy. And so in this place I present to you a reading as we explore hidden wholeness. This is from that 13th century mystic and poet Jalaluddin Rumi. And it refers to a river called Coulter. And in the Islam tradition, Coulter is this mythological river in heaven whose waters are so sweet that when the soul drinks of those waters, it experiences the true abundance of life, like a renewal, a resurgence, a wholeness. So, The Springtime of Lovers by Jalaluddin Rumi. The springtime of lovers has come, so that this dust bowl may become a garden. The proclamation of heaven has come so that the bird of the soul may rise in flight. The ocean becomes full of pearls. The salt marsh as sweet as the river Coulter. The stone, a ruby from the mine. The body entirely soul. So we'll hear the sound of our bowl ringing, just inviting us to contemplate wholeness, to contemplate loving kindness, just to go wherever your contemplation leads you into a greater experience of love. And so the bowl is just inviting you, as I do, to bring your awareness gently back to this space with your expanded contemplations and that loving kindness that's here for the world.
Come gather round, people, wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown. Accept that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, then you'd better start swimming or you sink like a stone, for the times they are a-changing. Come writers and critics who prophesize with your pen, keep your eyes wide, the chance won't come again. And don't speak too soon, for the wheel's still in spin, and there's no telling who that it's naming. For the loser now will later to win, for the times they are a-changing. Come senators, congressmen, please heed the call. Don't stand in the doorways, don't block up the hall, for he who is hurt will be he who has stalled. The battle outside raging will soon shake your windows and rattle your walls, for the times they are a-changing. Come mothers and fathers throughout the land, don't criticize what you can't understand. Your sons and your daughters are beyond your command. Your old road is rapidly aging, please get out of the new one if you can lend your hand, for the times they are a-changing. The line it is drawn, the curse it is cast. The slow one now will later be fast, as the present now will later be past. The order is rapidly fading, the first one now will later be last, for the times they are changing. Please welcome the Reverend Dr. Guy Williams.
Listen to that all morning. Thank you, Lee. That was it was inspiring. Yeah. Isn't it fabulous how things can trigger us, right? A song, a smell, a sight, something, and all of a sudden it can transport us. It's, Tolkien wrote about this, and he called it the imaginal. It's going into almost an enchanted place. And what I love about so much about what Tolkien writes about in the imaginal, or what he would call fairy, it's a different place of being, and it speaks to us. He tells stories when he was writing the Lord of the Rings, how he was more surprised than we as readers were of certain events and things and people that showed up. They were there. He tells a story of, there he is writing about this encounter in this inn, and there's somebody there, and he has no idea who it is. And later we find out it's Strider, or there's a dark rider, and he doesn't know who it is. So the beauty of the imaginal world is it leads us to a place of surprise and wonder and amazement, kind of like hope. Hope is more profound, more interesting when we don't know the outcome of something. Hope is almost an act of defiance, like this song. And I've been sort of contemplating that this week. But it's interesting because it's been in the context of trees. Because, sometimes, when you get a thought on something, and then all of a sudden, everywhere you look, there's that thing. My brain science talks about it. It's called the reticular activating system. And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but just leave it to say that if your mind is on something, then all of a sudden, our mind begins to filter things out. So it's like, we're talking about getting a new car in our house. And so everywhere I look, I see Teslas. And it's just the most kind of interesting things, or you think about certain things. But for me in particular, it's like trees, and I'm just really taken with the trees in our neighborhood. And last winter, a lot of us did a tree trimming kind of thing, and you looked at it, and there it was in February, and all the trees were just kind of bare. But now there's this greenness that's literally everywhere. And we have this beautiful Modesto ash in our front yard, and we gave it a haircut this winter, and it's got this stunning beauty about it. But like trees are like in so many other sacred writings. When you read the great poetry of the Hebrew Bible, or the poetry of Islam or Christianity, and and on in all religions, it really doesn't matter what, but there's this sense of trees having this liveliness to them. In fact, this is what Tolkien writes about when he talks about these characters called Ents. And Ents are shepherds of the forests. And he talks about how some trees, some of the Ents are becoming sleepy and drowsing, and they're becoming more tree-like. But some trees are becoming more awake and lively and becoming more Ent-like. And what he's talking about is this quality of aliveness or livingness or consciousness, beingness, being aware of what we're aware of. And for Tolkien, so much of his formation as a traveler into the land of Faerie was shaped by first the First World War, where he lost so many of his closest friends, but then also as he saw the encroachment of an economy that is based on extraction. And he saw how the land around him that he loved was being deforested, and the rise of machines. And he writes about this as the toxic mimics that we create, because we often will try to mimic something by creating something like it, but it's not it. Like a park-like setting. It's not a forest. It's totally groomed and all of that. So, but for Tolkien, this sense of the imaginal is this sense of being open to novelty, newness, something that is not seen before or perceived before. In a sense, it's almost an act of defiance. So here's where the whole thing began. I was reading, I'm in this study group, and I was reading, and I'm reading the work of well, it doesn't matter. I'm reading Nietzsche Bonhoeffer, but this has nothing to do with Bonhoeffer. It has to do with Martin Luther. And by the way, this is probably the first time in my life, or certainly the first time in this pulpit, that I'm going to be quoting Martin Luther. But here I go. So Martin Luther was once asked, or said, by someone, said, if you were to find out that the world was going to end immediately, what would you do? So think about this yourself. If you knew, if I was to tell you, or somebody was to tell you, or you were able to whatever, and someone to say the world is going to end next week, what would you do? And Martin Luther's response, do you know? You know. Martin Luther's response was, he would plant a tree. If you knew the world was going to end next week, what would you do? I would plant a tree. I would plant a tree in an act of defiant hope. In defiant hope. Because hope is not easily lulled. Hope does not go to sleep, but hope remains awake. And again, if we think in terms of all this beautiful poetry that's in all the sacred writings, it's about awakening, and awakening and hope and regeneration. In fact, we're in a whole season of this idea where we are celebrating in all the rites of spring and all the different traditions, the awakening of the earth, the awakening of things. And and our invitation is to participate in this in some way, is this great awakening. But there's kind of an interesting thing that happens about this. And that is that part of the awakening process is a trick, a turn, a movement where we find ourselves maybe disoriented, maybe in new territory, maybe where we don't quite understand. I was having a lunch the other day with some of my friends in Tijuana at the Corazon Global, and we were talking about, we started that venture in 2005, the year that I took the pulpit here, and it's almost been 20 years. And just how different things are. How we're trying to adjust, to cope, to figure out our way, and what we're looking for. We were talking, are you going to go to this conference? No. Are you going to go to that conference? No. What do you want for yourself? I want silence. Because I'm at a crossroad. And maybe you find yourself at a crossroad too. So there's this line that Meister Eckhart, who is this Rhineland mystic around the time of Rumi, but in Germany, and he writes this. He says, there is a journey you will make. It is a journey without a destination. There is no map. Your soul will lead you. There is a journey that you will take, and there is no map. It has no destination. The soul will lead you. And many of us find ourselves at that crossroad right now, huh? Maybe it's a relationship issue, maybe it's a job issue, maybe it's a health issue, but it feels like a crossroads. And there may be this sense of, man, am I the only one that has ever done this? No, but you're doing it. And am I absolutely alone? No, but you're alone. It's that kind of paradoxical kind of thing, is it not? There's that part of us that feels that we're alone, and yet it's a journey that each and every being, as part of their own spiritual evolution, takes. And perhaps we take it one time, we take it many, I think we probably take it many times, because there's more than just one crossroad in life. And it is somewhat disorienting, but there's something also remarkable about it, because the journey is the discovery that we are taking part in something that is bigger than ourselves. And what I mean by that is our culture is a culture that indoctrinates us in a lie. And the lie is one that permeates our ability to perceive the imaginal. And it's a lie that speaks about separation, that we're alone, that we're cut off, that no one has ever gone through the experience that we're going through, or whatever the case may be. But it's the sense that we're alone. And as a result of being alone, we may also feel disempowered or confused or not knowing what to do and having to resort to our highest wisdom. And sometimes what this looks like, I think, is a sense of futility can grow out of this because we feel that what we're called to do just seems so trivial with everything else that's going on. I think about that, because my focus these days is, we're creating a sanctuary in our backyard, so we're planting trees and we're moving things around. And I'm thinking, there's global warming, there's, all this political kind of stuff. We're on the verge of another financial collapse again, and another pandemic again. And you look outside and you think, I should be doing something more than what I'm doing. And that's the lie. Because what it's telling us is that our own dharma, that unique sense of expression of who we are, is unimportant. Because there's this great big tide that's going on. And it fills us with a sense of impotence, perhaps rage, perhaps disillusionment, perhaps, fill in the blank. And yet, our dharma is the thing that awakens the world. Marion Edelman writes this: we must not, in trying to think about how we can make a big difference, ignore the small daily differences we can make, which over time add up to big differences that we often cannot foresee. So it's literally those things, the day-to-day things in our lives, that make up the big differences. And how we heal the world, how we try to correct anything that is going on, is really by tending to ourselves. Now, that's not to say that we shouldn't take action in the world, because we should, or that we shouldn't let our voices be heard, because they should. But it comes from this place of what Thomas Merton calls the hidden wholeness, that inner beingness within us. In different cultures, it's called different names. It is called prana, the breath of life. It is called the Great Spirit. It's called the Holy Spirit. It's called the essence of all things. But it is that beingness that lives in all creation, or rather, all creation lives in it. And that everything is interconnected to everything else because of that, and nothing is separate from anything there. It is that sense that when we tap into that hidden wholeness, unites us. There's a story that Thomas Merton writes about, and he writes about the day and the time and the place. I don't remember the name of the corner, but it's in Louisville, Kentucky. And one day he was walking down the street in Louisville, Kentucky, and he looked around, and all of a sudden he realized that he was in love, literally in love, with everyone he saw on the street. There was just something that filled him with this sense of beingness. And what he got was, oh my goodness gracious, there's this great presence that is living in all things, and it's living as me. And so our invitation then is to consider this. It's It's when we feel that we are alone, that we identify with ourself, the small self, which feels that it must grasp and hold and connive and work on its highest wisdom, which is often, our highest wisdom is often in deep correlation to our deepest wound, because it's how we react and respond. But if we can tap into that place that has never known betrayal, never known loss, never known pain, never known sin, sickness, you name it, poverty or death, but that place, wow, something begins to happen. Something profound begins to affect our perception. And as we enter into the imaginal, we begin to move into places that we didn't even know exist before. And we begin to see this sense of how things connect themselves. And as we begin to look, it's like, that tree in my yard is home to so many birds and insects and other things. That garden that we are created is filled with so much life that ripples out into other life and is touching and is touching and is touching. That everything that we do ripples out and ripples out. There's no such thing as a solitary action that is defined or connected to any one thing all by itself. And so the freedom comes. There's this almost this Zen koan of Jesus where he says, those who seek themselves will lose themselves. But those who lose themselves will find themselves. And I think to myself, what does that mean? And here's my take on it. If I get caught up into being tantalized, distracted by, intrigued by my small self, then I'd lose my whole perspective of who I am and what I've come to do and anything about myself. I have no idea who I am if I keep thinking I know who I am, right? If the story that I'm telling myself is I'm alone in this world, then I have no idea who I am. There's no freedom in that. It is bondage. But if I can lose myself, and what I mean by this, not that I want to tell Jesus what he means, but how I hear it is if I lose myself, which is if I participate in a story that is bigger than me, then I really find myself. Then I see that my gifts have importance, my art, my beauty, whatever it is that I have, because it's participating in something even greater than myself. It is this hidden wholeness. It's that which heals and restores and regenerates and makes all things new. I think that how we tap into this is through prayer. I don't know another way. There's plenty of places that can give you 10 steps to this and 7 steps to that and 4 steps to this and the laws of money and the rules of love and the articles of power and all of that. Prayer. Prayer, which is at the end of the day, and I think there's an evolution in prayer itself. Because I think in our evolution, what began to awaken our consciousness was a form of prayer that, for lack of a better word, we'd call worship. That sense where we lose ourselves by a sense of adoration into something that is greater than ourself. And that served us well at an evolutionary point. But it's at some point in our evolution, we're moving. We're moving because we're aware that that presence is not outside of us, but inside of us. And so it's not so much about worshiping as it is about listening of just being still, of entering into the imaginal. And when we begin to train ourselves to listen and not to speak. I mean, there's a time and place for asking for things and all that other kind of stuff. There's a time and place for amazement and wonder and awe. There's a time. Yesterday I was at the gym and I just was hit by this experience. Is I have a body that is exercising and doing these things, and here I am, just south of 70, and I'm able to do these things, and all it was thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I am so grateful for that, and there's a time and place for that. But then there's that time of silence. There's that time of just silence. And that's what connects us. I'm a little intimidated because Craig, who is such a beautiful poet, exposes us to so many of these wonderful, wonderful mystic poets. But I want to offer one from myself. And it is from another Sufi mystic, Hafiz. And he says this: "This is the kind of friend you are. Without making me realize my soul's anguished history, you slip into my house at night, and while I am sleeping, you silently carry off all my suffering and sordid past in your beautiful hands." This is what listening brings us. This is the kind of friend you are. Without making me realize my soul's anguished history, you slip into my house at night, and while I am sleeping, you silently carry off all my suffering and sordid past into your beautiful hands. Let us take that into prayer. A form of prayer that we call affirmative prayer, that begins with the contemplation that there is a presence that permeates all things because all things radiate from it. And whether we perceive this as the indwelling presence or the manifestation of all things, the inside or the outside, it's completely unnecessary. It distracts us. It's that there is, at the very essence, a hidden wholeness from which all creation proceeds. It's not the spiritual and the material. It's not the seen and the unseen. It is simply the hidden wholeness of which everything exists within. It is the life of everything that I perceive. It is the essence of everything that I see, animate and inanimate. And it is my life. And it is the life of each and every one of us in this room. And that it is forever alluring us, inviting us into a greater and fuller expression of who we are. Amor fati, to love our fate, to embrace our dharma, that which is unique and wonderful and curious, that is the very essence of who we are. And that as we affirm this, that I live in a world permeated with life, and that I am participating in that, in all the different planes of beingness. There is wisdom and there is life surrounding me and filling me, working in me, through me, and to me at every level. And as a result of that, the doors of perception are cleared, as Blake says, and I see all things as they are, eternal. And so I see this unfoldment. I see this wisdom guiding me. And as I say yes to this, I become a place of possibility. That it is not my life, but the life itself that is living itself as me. It's not my breath, it's the breath. It's not my song, it's the song. It's not my poetry, it's the poetry. It is not me, but the one who sent me. And that I am that vehicle. And knowing this, I am free. I am free to follow the calling of my heart, knowing that I will be guided, knowing that I will be supported, knowing that my life is a blessing. And so I am grateful, so grateful. And there's nothing more to say or do. And so I let it be. So it is.
Thanks always, Rev. Splendid reminders. Let's resonate together and radiate together. We let love wash over us. We let love wash over us. We let it be. We let love wash over us. We let it be. We let peace. We let peace wash over us. We let it be. We let light. We let light wash over us. We let it be. Now sing a little Beatles with me. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. Whisper words of wisdom, let it be. We let ease. We let ease wash over us. We let it be. We let love. We let love wash over us. We let it be. One more time, I'm feeling it. We let love wash over us. We let it be. So beautiful, always. So good to resonate, right? Well, we're taking a minute here. I want to encourage people, when you go home, we're always singing in my key. It's really important to find your own key. When you're home, singing in the shower, wherever you are, just find that note that resonates in your chest. If you do a note like a find it where it resonates in your chest and then maybe in your head, and it kind of clears out the space a little bit. Yeah. Because we're always singing in my key, and it's not fair.
We love your key, Lee.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you, Lee, and thank you, Jim. Reverend Guy, thank you. I just am amazed, honored, blessed for your words, your wisdom, the way you take things that are really contemporary issues in our lives and weave it with historical, ever-present truths. It's just a blessing. Don't you feel that way listening to him?
Indeed.
Thank you, Reverend Guy. And thank you for that poem. That was a beautiful poem. Love that. In fact, when I listen to your talks, there's all these poems. Oh yeah, it makes me think of that poem. So anyway, I know it's just a blessing to be here. It's a blessing to see some familiar faces and old friends. And it's just the experience of life, right? When we feel truth kind of awaken in our own being. We feel this, we're just a conduit that somehow life energy passes through us. We are the current of life flowing. And so that's, whether it's your treasures, in this case, giving money to support the center, or your talents or your time, that's the current of life that naturally expresses through what we call love. So just know your gifts today are coming from there, and they really are an awesome blessing to this community to let us continue to serve, whether it's through these services, through classes, through the things that are developing online, just so many ways, through prayer. Reverend Guy mentioned prayer. We'll have a prayer circle after this. I invite you to come. It's just a wonderful opportunity. It certainly has been a transformation for my life. So, with all that said, just whatever level you're giving, you're here, your presence is a giving. Just hold your hand near your heart, where that's where that, inner chamber of your soul is just expressing. Know what you give comes from there, and we thank you. So it is.
Speaking, I was reminded of a dialogue I was in the other day, which had to do with where are spiritual communities, churches, where are we, how are we navigating into this postmodern age. And it was really interesting because this guy Andy Root, who is a theologian and a philosopher, he said something really interesting. He says, we don't need any more innovation. What we need are more poets. I love that. What will enliven spiritual communities is art. And I just love that. So I'm just grateful that we have artists in our community, such as Lee and such as Craig and everyone else. And I want to just thank everybody for, again, being here today. I especially want to thank Jeff Meacham, who is looking a lot like Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top these days. Just loving it for coming in and doing the sound and making us all sound good today. And of course for Lee and Jim for leading us in song, and for Bob and Marilyn, who were part of the greeters, and Craig, who was our practitioner, and and Wendy, who came in and makes the place beautiful, and Patty and Sherry, who are in the gift store doing just very cool things, and
Noreen's here too.
Huh?
Noreen's here.
Noreen's here too. Oh, I didn't see you, Noreen. There you are. There you are. And Kurt and company, who's ever in the kitchen doing their things. And if I forgot to mention somebody, it's not because I don't think of you, because I know so many of you are doing so many things, but that's what it all comes down to, is how we create, and each of us doing the thing that brings us joy is what creates this community. And for you in the virtual world too, as you like, subscribe, share, it grows there too. So I want to thank everybody for being here today at whatever capacity you are. And just bless. So let us enjoy this time, this season, and let's pray away. So, and don't forget the 21st. It's going to be a blast. So again, just reflecting on this one life, this one presence that is luring us into a greater expression of ourself. And we take refuge in that. We take refuge in the novelty. We take refuge in the beauty, in the wonder and the amazement that awakens and enlivens us, and like the trees themselves, our very existence is a beatitude of joy. And so we give thanks. We let it be, and so it is.
So it is. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride if you have things you need to borrow, for no one can feel those of your needs that you won't let show. Just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'd understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Yeah. Yeah, there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry. I'm right up the road, and I'll share your load. If you just call me, just call on me, sister, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'd understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need someone to lean on. Just call me, call me, call me, just call me. Happy Sunday, everybody. You're not alone. The Reverend was right. Have a great one.